Surprising things forbidden by the Bible. Many of us are familiar with the Ten Commandments. God told Moses for humankind not to steal, kill, commit adultery, and respect their parents, among other points. But these are just some of the actions prohibited by the Bible, and many others can be found in the Christian Holy Book. In this video, we bring you some of the most interesting ones. So watch the video till the end, and if you are watching our channel for the first time, then please subscribe and like the video. Now let's go to the video. Sex outside of marriage. Perhaps not the most surprising item on this list, but one that needs to be mentioned nonetheless. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 1 to 5 is pretty clear when it says that each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. The passage actually encourages the couple to not deprive each other from sex, so that they won't be tempted by Satan. Same-sex relationships. Perhaps one of the most controversial parts of the Bible, both men and women are forbidden from having romantic relationships with the same sex. This is mentioned in Leviticus chapter 18 verse 22, which reads, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind, it is abomination." Leviticus chapter 20 verse 13 also mentions it, "If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them." 2 in 1. Crossbreeding animals, planting two seeds in the same field, and mixing two types of fabric, all are forbidden by the Bible. Keep my decrees. Do not make different kinds of animals. Do not plant your field with two kinds of seed. Do not wear clothing woven of two kinds of material, reads Leviticus chapter 19 verse 19. Deuteronomy chapter 22 verses 9 to 11 also mentions this, and goes into specific animals and fabrics. You shall not sow your vineyard with two kinds of seed, lest the whole yield be forfeited, the crop that you have sown and the yield of the vineyard. You shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together. You shall not wear cloth of wool and linen mixed together. Women looking too nice. 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 9 is pretty clear when it comes to how women should present themselves. I also want the women to dress modestly, with decency and propriety, adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. Self-love. While having sex with our spouse is fine, doing so on our own is not advocated by the Bible. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 18 reads, "Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body." Swearing. The Bible stresses that we should pay attention to the words we profess. Be grateful and don't swear seems to be the way to go according to the Bible. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving, reads Ephesians chapter 5 verse 4. Cursing your parents. While we're on the topic of watching our mouths, let's not even think about cursing our parents. Because according to Exodus chapter 21 verse 17, anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Men cutting their hair and shaving. It turns out men shouldn't shave their beards, nor cut their hair, but then, it might just be a round haircut that's forbidden. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 27 reads, "Do not cut the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard." Eating pork. Not great news for bacon lovers, but the Bible is pretty explicit when it comes to consuming pork. Leviticus chapter 11 verses 7 to 8 states, "The pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, does not chew the cud, it is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses, they are unclean for you." Seafood. And if you thought you would be laughing at pork eaters while you indulge in lobster and shrimp, we have bad news for you. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 10 is pretty clear about these animals as well. "But all creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all the swarming things or among all the other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean." Eating snails. Eating snails is not for everyone, but it's part of many countries' culinary traditions. The Bible, though, doesn't advocate its consumption. Leviticus chapter 11 verse 41 points out that, "These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth." Tattoos. Tattoos are pretty common in this day and age, but back in biblical times, they were a no-no. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks upon you, reads Leviticus chapter 19 verse 28. Torn jeans. Yes, according to the Bible you should not wear these. Leviticus chapter 10 verse 6 reads, "Do not tear your clothes, or you will die and the Lord will be angry with the whole community." Hanging out with people who drink or eat too much. Sure, many of us like to eat and have a drink or two, and so did people in biblical times. The problem is when we hang out with people who are prone to excess, and we end up following their steps. Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags, reads Proverbs chapter 23 verses 20 to 21. Gossip. Next time you think about engaging in gossip, remember what the Bible says about it. Whoever slanders their neighbor in secret, I will put to silence. Whoever has haughty eyes and a proud heart, I will not tolerate. Psalm chapter 101 verse 5. Fortune telling. As for consulting a fortune teller, remember the words in Leviticus chapter 19 verse 31. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Getting a divorce. Mark chapter 10 verses 11 to 12 is pretty clear about this. Anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another man, she commits adultery. Cheating. Adultery is also a no-no, and that includes feeling desire for another man's wife. The Bible leaves no doubts about its stance. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matthew chapter 5 verses 27 to 28. Don't go to church if you have genital problems. No one who has been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord, reads Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 2. Don't help your husband during a fight using a cheap move. If two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity. Deuteronomy chapter 25 verses 11 to 19. Hope you like this video. Comment on how many follow these rules as they are in the Bible. And what religion you are. For more interesting and informative videos, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Let's keep growing together.